I'll be damned. There was somebody who wanted to take Cam Akers off the Rams' hands. The Chargers say they're not panicking. They're not. And USC gets a key defensive player back in time for its first road game. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. And it is a good morning. It is September 21st, 2023. Let's kick the day off right and talk a little LA sports. Do you like being in the know about LA sports? Well, then clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that and let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And comment, because talking about LA sports is always interesting. So before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Weird game out at the Ravine last night, right? You take a look at Max Muncy. He's been complaining about his offensive production all year. And yet he still hit his tying for his career high, 36 home runs. Now don't get me wrong, the Dodgers lost to Detroit last night 4-2, but it is meaningless. We already know the Dodgers won the division. And Bobby Miller took the loss, but he had a quality start. He's actually boosting his postseason resume, even though he just lost to the Tigers. Go figure. Meanwhile, Billy Sharp led a miraculous comeback at Dignity Health Sports Park. Scores a hat trick with the Galaxy season literally on the line. Galaxy 4, Minnesota 3. Diego Fagundes with the game winner. Maxime Crepeau makes 4 saves for LAFC, but frankly, the black and gold in St. Louis just ran around the pitch for 90 minutes. Neither of them scored. Totally anticlimactic. This match was supposed to be between the top 2 teams in the MLS Western Conference. Well, it wouldn't be now, because with the tie, LAFC actually drops down to number 3 in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, today, San Francisco's in town to play the Dodgers at 7. Emmett Sheehan is 3-1 with a 5.44 ERA. Kyle Harrison is 1-1 with a 5.18 ERA. The Rams bought Cam Akers a ticket to Minnesota. Don't even know if it was on a plane or if he's on Amtrak. Who cares? Because I don't even want to call this a trade. I mean, I'm going on social media to judge the reactions from fans after this deal went down. Oh, the Vikings fleeced the Rams. Oh, the Rams fleeced the Vikings. The things people will argue over. I swear, it's craziness. This is a so-called alleged trade. The Rams get Minnesota's 5th round pick in 2026. In exchange, the Vikings get Akers and the Rams' 6th round pick, also in 2026. That's 3 years from now, guys. 2 day 3 picks in the NFL draft. You'll be very fortunate if either one of those players drafted then gets on special teams. Let's not get it twisted. And by the way, in the process, the Rams get rid of a running back who never came close to rushing for 1,000 yards and blew out his Achilles tendon and fumble prone in the playoffs and got into arguments with his coach a couple of years in a row, right? Big. Where is that a fleecing for either side? Where? So what happened between the Rams and Akers? There is a chance that it might not actually be about Akers' effort, because if you recall, he did in fact crush his rehab from Achilles tendon repair surgery. Clearly, this is a guy who wanted to be on the field. I would argue that the reason that Akers failed, though, was because the Rams want to run the ball in a different way than Akers is used to. LA has changed its offensive line scheme, especially over the offseason. They made it a point to get bigger, more physical. And so now what they've done is they've gone to gap concept blocking, which at some point we might explain a little further on Friday Night Chalk Talk. Instead now, Akers gets to be reunited with Minnesota coach Kevin O'Connell, who was the Rams offensive coordinator back with when the Rams ran a zone blocking scheme. It might fit a little bit more into what Akers wants to run behind. These things actually matter. You can't just plug any running back behind any set of blockers and expect to go. Minnesota's running game is complete trash. at this point. They're looking for anything. And that even includes a guy who averaged just 1.3 yards per carry in week 1. So this is not exactly the second coming of Adrian Peterson over to Minnesota. But again, I didn't think any trade would happen at all. I thought they'd wind up cutting the guy. The Rams also will, by the way, benefit sort of. They get a modicum of salary cap relief in the deal. A little more than $1 million, but that's only for this year because Akers, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So what does this mean? The Rams rid themselves of a headache. They get a little bit of salary cap relief and a pick you're going to not remember. Minnesota gets one last chance to create a running game, and Akers needs to produce now, or else he's going to be trying out for whatever the XFL and the USFL morph into next spring. Straight and simple. Puka Nacua leads the NFL in targets. The scribes are now referring to him as the next Cooper Kupp, which is a little simplistic, but let's be real, most scribes are simple-minded in the first place. Here's the point. Scouts are telling ESPN that the difference between Nacua and a lot of receivers in the draft this year is that Nacua contests for every pass. He doesn't take a target off. He will do whatever it takes to get the ball. A Rams scout said that the rookie fights so hard to get every pass, not just in the game, but in practice, that coaches have asked him to dial it down a notch. Quote, like, whoa, chill, you're going to hurt yourself, unquote. Now, this is from BYU offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick. Quote, he doesn't know any other speed than full speed. I'm sure they've had to teach him there that they don't kill each other in practice in the NFL, unquote. Now, look, this actually makes a bit of sense. Nacua has an injury history. That's what dropped him into the 5th round in the first place. He broke a foot at BYU. He had an ankle injury at BYU. Even at the end of his first week in the NFL, he was listed on the NFL's injury report with a strained oblique. So, yeah, it's great that he's generating all these results for the Rams. But sometimes discretion, guys, discretion. Meanwhile, yesterday, the Chargers said all the right things about themselves and Coach Brandon Staley, and then they stepped on another rake. I mean, seriously, somebody on the grounds crew needs to take a few minutes, clean the practice field of all those rakes that the Chargers defense keeps stepping on, wouldn't you say? Multiple players saying the same phrase word for word. We're not panicking. And not just scrubs saying it too, good players. Derwin James, we're not panicking. Justin Herbert, we're not panicking. Here's a new wrinkle though. They're playing at Minnesota this weekend. Both teams are 0-2. Now, why does this wrinkle matter? Because according to the Elias Sports Bureau, there have been 5 coaches since 2010 who have started their 3rd season with the team 0-3. Only 2 of those 5 finished the season as the head coach. So what does that mean? It means even an ownership group as notoriously cheap as the Spanos family might consider getting rid of Staley in a couple of weeks if the Bolts are on a bye and they're 0-3. Just saying, they might. Who knows how cheap they are, right? Austin Eckler missed practice on Wednesday. We talked about this last week. Look, just to repeat, a lot of ankle injuries tend to keep you sidelined for either 2 or 4 weeks. I'm no physician. I just know this is week 2, so I'm not expecting him to play. USC will get starting linebacker Mason Cobb back this weekend when the Trojans travel to Arizona State. Cobb has only played in 1 game since coming to SC, but in that game against San Jose State, he recorded 6 tackles. And it's nice and all, but I read this headline, quote, USC unfazed by its first road game, unquote. Nobody should be fazed. They're playing Arizona State. The Sun Devils aren't what they once were. The Sun Devils, the entire program right now is this dystopian landscape. It looks like the beginning of a James Cameron movie. It's garbage. Of course USC is unfazed. We might talk a little about USC on Friday Night Chalk Talk, but I'm here to tell you, if you're going to start the Pac-12 season and you want to sleepwalk through a game, this one is it. Resident LA Times emo Bill Plaschke wrote, quote, "Shame on USC for pulling a reporter's press pass. A futile attempt to control the media." And okay, I said the same thing yesterday, only without the crocodile tears and the tut-tutting. But here's the thing, and I'm not just saying it to you guys watching, I'm saying this to the scribes, being a former scribe myself. Do you actually have the guts to back up your principles? Do you? Do newspapers across Southern California, does the media, does even, in that matter, radio and TV have the guts to do the same thing that they were prepared to do to Al Davis when Al Davis and the Raiders tried to pull somebody's press pass in the 1980s? Do you have the guts to boycott this game this weekend against Arizona State? Do you? Let me tell you something. Simply run the AP game story. Anything else you can just do is just empty talk, and Riley and the Trojans are not going to listen. Please understand, anybody who's watched this program for a long time knows how much I love USC football. I believe Lincoln Riley is a brilliant coach, but he is absolutely positively in the wrong for what he did to Luka Evans. Straight and simple. Absolutely wrong. Everything I've read about the story and about what Evans allegedly did, he did nothing unethical. Zip, zero, nada. The Trojans, for example, are allegedly upset that Evans referred to the fourth quarter of a blowout as, quote, garbage time, unquote. Of course it's garbage time. You blew out the other team. They're upset over that. They're upset over the fact that he referred to USC's president as Carol instead of Dr. Folt. How thin-skinned are you guys? Seriously. And of course, the things that we talked about on yesterday's clip. But the press is going to have to show a pair, straight up. They have to show they have the guts to miss a couple of games to send a message back to USC. And also a shot across the bow that if USC doesn't actually sweep the entire regular season, the scribes will be petty right back and not include you guys in the college football playoffs. There is a distinct possibility that pulling that guy's press pass can bite you in the ass come playoff time. There's a cool story on former Bruins basketball player Rico Hines on ESPN.com. I really highly recommend you read it. It's about how every summer he opens up the Student Activity Center on campus for pickup games. And you might say, well, big whoop. A lot of people open up a gym for pickup games for the locals. That's not what this is about. It's not for the kids. It's for current UCLA players to play professionals. NBA players, G League, the Lakers, the Clippers. And the thing is this, it gets super duper competitive. Kind of like when I was young and I would rather play basketball than drink, right? There were 3 courts. If you win on the main court, you stay on the main court. You lose, you go to court 2, trying to fight your way back to court 1. You lose at court 2, you go to court 3. You lose that one, and you, pal, are on the sidelines watching because you can't hang. You tell that to professionals? Oh, yeah, they're going to take that a little bit personally. Now, these are not official practices for UCLA. And so you're sitting there saying all this time, UCLA basketball has been reputed for toughness. How else do you get toughness other than playing hardcore professional basketball players? Now, by the way, Hines did not invent what they referred to as the summer run. And it benefits the NBA players, by the way, because you've been taking the summer off, you've been going to Cancun, you've been enjoying yourself under the sun. Now's the time to get back into game shape. Hines, again, he didn't invent it. There was a time when Magic Johnson ran it. And by the way, these runs were also around when Wilt Chamberlain played. So yeah, cool stuff. The Athletic lists the LA Kings as one of the 5 NHL teams that are most likely to regress this season. Now, for the most part, they've been parroting what every other NHL analyst has been saying about the Kings. That they're better up front, that their centers are extremely deep, but losing 4 players as part of that process of changing the team will hurt depth. And the biggest worry is in net. Again, losing Eunice Korpisalo to free agency and not having cap space to reacquire quality in net. That's going to hurt. Now, the regression does not mean LA will be garbage. The analysts still expect the Kings to make the playoffs. It's just that they're not thinking the Kings can unseat the Golden Knights. They think Edmonton can. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about this Rams trade of Cam Akers. Tell me how desperate the Chargers should actually be if they're not panicking. For that matter, should they panic? And if you enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corta El Queso production. Take care.